Alright, welcome to this video about Google Meet. So we're using Google Meet for all of our Good Profit Group meetings, and we're having some technical issues at the beginning sometimes, so let's kind of walk through how all this works. First, each one of you would have gotten an invitation like this, and at the top of this invitation it has this opportunity to RSVP or say yes, I do plan to attend, maybe or no. Obviously if this is your recurring week you need to say yes, and if you do it will save it to your Google Calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And then here's this meeting that's supposed to start at 3:30 today, and it's a recurring meeting that starts each week at 3:30. But if you save it to your calendar, all you have to do is click on it and then open it up. And this one has a reminder 10 minutes before the meeting that'll pop up that we may see during this video, depending on how long this video is. But I usually set 3. I usually set one for 10 minutes before, 1 hour before, and 1 day before, just so I have that reminder a day early. Okay, I got a video thing tomorrow, and then an hour before, just because sometimes I forget these things. But then once I start the meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting now. Alright, so I'm going to start this meeting now. And obviously we have a big fat screen of me, and here's all of your options down here at the bottom. So first and foremost is the video. So if you turn it off, it just puts up whatever picture you have in your profile. And then on the audio, obviously you won't be able to hear me if I turn that off, but I will tell you I'm about to turn it off, and you'll see at least what happens, which is the exact same thing that happened here. It turns red with this line through it. So microphone is controlled here. The actual meeting is, this is where you hang up from the meeting, so you don't want to push that. And then the video is controlled here. And the controls on a phone are very similar, but it'd be very difficult to do these meetings. I wouldn't plan on doing them frequently from the phone because it's hard to see if we share something, if we present something. So if possible, use your computer. Over here you really shouldn't need this section. This is if we wanted to invite someone else to the meeting, and so I use that, but you would never use that. So you can kind of ignore that. You can ignore this captions part. Sometimes I might ask you to present something either to help you work through something, or it may be you're in the hot seat and you've got some sort of presentation you want to make. So all you do is just click present now, and that will allow you, well, let's do it. So present now, then your options are your entire screen, a window, a Chrome tab. So my recommendation, just based on past experiences, is just go ahead and always choose entire screen. The only reason you wouldn't choose that is if you had some sort of proprietary something you didn't want other people to see, and that's typically not the case. But these can cause problems and have been known to cause problems. But a window would be any one of the programs that are open, and a Chrome tab will be a tab within the Chrome browser. So you can choose any of these three options, but I suggest show the entire screen, and then that would present your screen to everyone other than you. But here's where most of the people run into trouble, is in the setup part. So these three dots are where all the options are, and you click there, and you may not see this, but we have the option for whiteboard, and we may use that from time to time. But this change layout is very handy. Not a lot of difference from the different versions of it. So you see here we have an auto, and so what the auto does is it alternates between this tiled and the spotlight. And so if I put it in auto, of course it's not going to change because there's the only person on this meeting is me, but if I put it in auto, then whoever's talking will be on the main part of the screen here, and everyone else will be in a grid over here. And if it's full group of people, that grid expands and expands and expands into this tiled look. And the spotlight doesn't show anybody but who's talking, and that can be a little distracting because just a noise can flip to another person, so you probably don't want to keep that turned on. I usually keep it on auto. That works really well. Sidebar works okay too. These become static, they're not popping in and out, so I usually use auto. That usually works best. And then your next option in here that is of relevance to you is the full screen, and you may need that if I'm sharing something or someone else is sharing something or presenting something. You may need the full screen to be able to see maybe small text or something. But you always have the option to jump in here and then to get out. Once you hit that, you can see up at the top of the screen right now it says hit escape to exit full screen, and then it goes away. So just remember that you need to hit escape to go back out of full screen, and that's true of most programs that have a full screen option. Then you have the turn blog option on, so I'm going to turn the camera back on, or blur background. So we have the camera up, and if we go to this turn on background blur, it takes it just a second to do it. It can be helpful if you have things happening behind you as far as distractions, but sometimes it creates a distraction because it doesn't always read everything right. Let me move around a little bit and see if it, I think I'm so close to this wall behind me that it's not going to be as much. Well, even to those pictures it might be a distraction. So I'm going to turn that off and the camera off. But you can turn it on if you, and you can leave it on. It just sometimes it doesn't work well. We're not going to use the captions. There's no reason to do that. So here's maybe one of the mistakes people are making is when they say they're going to use their phone for the audio, they actually join the meeting twice, and you don't have to do that. You can use this option here. So at that point, if you're going to use your phone for the audio, you don't have to do anything other than click on this. It'll actually use your phone. So when you use that, you're going to put in your phone number. And so I'll go ahead and do this. If I said I was going to use my phone, you would put in your phone number. And then I'm going to let this play out because you'll be able to hear it. So I'm going to say, call me.
Press 1 to connect your phone audio to your video.
So just in case you didn't hear that, she said, press 1 to connect your phone to the audio. I'm pressing 1.
Use your phone to listen and speak to the meeting.
And then the next option is to mute yourself. You would hit *6. And
You muted yourself. Press *6 to unmute.
And she actually confirms that for you. And then you can push it again to unmute, and you can continue to do that through the meeting. And I'm going to turn that off. So that's how you would actually do that. And here you can see where it's asking me to disconnect this phone. And then let's pop down a little further. Report a problem. You could do that after a meeting, obviously, and report abuse after a meeting. Troubleshooting and help may be helpful, but it's a big help section. So, you know, if you're really having struggles and you want to try to research this before another meeting, feel free to jump in there and poke around and see if you can find something that's helping you with. Maybe your bandwidth is low. And of course, they really encourage you, if you are using Wi-Fi, to try to get close to the Wi-Fi. Ideally, you'd be using an Ethernet cable. So if you've got a router and you can get your computer close to that and you're not typically doing that, you might want to buy a cable and plug into the Ethernet port in the back of the router and then plug it into your computer. That will give you better bandwidth than Wi-Fi. So we could use the phone for audio, but another thing that we're struggling with is people do have the audio on their computer, but it's not working right. So I'm going to jump in here. Our meeting's getting ready to start. I'm going to jump in here to settings. And so it defaults to audio, and possibly what's happening now, right now I've got my computer in my lap sitting in a chair in another room other than my office intentionally so that I wouldn't have the distraction of this. And right now I only have this one option basically, and that is the microphone array that's built into my computer because I'm using my computer. And the same thing for my speakers. I only have one option for the speakers. It looks like there's several here, but it's really the same thing. It's the default speakers for the computer. And you can test, as you see, as I talk, you see this thing bouncing up and down here. And you can also test your speakers by playing that. You hear this ringing sound. And then the video also gives you some options. And so right now I have the front camera, although I have it turned off, is what it's using, but I could choose the rear camera. And if you had an external camera plugged into it, you'd be able to choose that. So sometimes it's defaulting to something else. A lot of times it's a Bluetooth headset, and so the sound is going through the Bluetooth headset that's across the room, and you don't realize that, and so we can't hear you, but you're talking away. So make sure you don't have a Bluetooth headset somewhere, or even a USB headset that you've plugged in and didn't realize it and dropped it in a drawer. Make sure that it's actually using the system speakers, and if all else fails, then my recommendation is to use the computer for the video, and then just come down here and use this option here to use your phone for the audio. And that's it for this session. Hope that helps.